Will Smith's career wasn't derailed by a slap, it was ended by a reveal. That moment at the Oscars didn't show a star losing his temper. It exposed the fatal crack in a $4.5 billion brand that Hollywood had spent 30 years investing in, and they immediately called in their chips. This is the story of how the most bankable, calculated star in modern history became an overnight liability. It's a masterclass in how Hollywood's love is entirely conditional, and how the system discards even its kings the moment the persona they're selling is proven to be a fragile fiction. Today, we're breaking down the three-part unraveling. We'll analyze the business model of the safe superstar he perfected, how the slap was a catastrophic systems failure of that brand, and why his current comeback attempts are proof that the industry has already quietly written him off as a going concern. The peak and the precipice. Let's freeze the frame on March 27, 2022, seconds before the rupture. Will Smith is at the absolute zenith, not just of the night, but of a 3-decade strategic campaign. He is minutes away from winning the Academy Award for Best Actor for King Richard, the final validating trophy for a career built on relentless commercial dominance. He wasn't just a movie star. He was a global brand avatar, the only actor in history to have 8 consecutive films open at #1, generating over $4.5 billion at the global box office. His persona was the most valuable and meticulously managed product in Hollywood, the charismatic, non-threatening, universally palatable megastar who could make middle America and the industry elite feel equally comfortable. But here's the paradox that defines everything that followed. At the very moment he was being anointed by the institution he spent his entire career courting, he was committing professional suicide on its most sacred stage. The slap wasn't just an incident. It was a catastrophic systems failure. In one violent, unscripted gesture, the safe Will Smith brand, the product of infinite control and calculated charm, shattered in front of its most important shareholders. That Oscar win wasn't a coronation. It was the final transaction of a deal that was instantly, permanently voided. Think about it. What was a Will Smith movie? It was the 4-quadrant, high-concept, morally unambiguous blockbuster. Independence Day, Men in Black, I, Robot. It was the guarantee of a smile, a thrill, and zero uncomfortable complexity. He wasn't selling depth. He was selling reliable joy. He was the human equivalent of a AAA-rated bond, a virtually risk-free investment for any studio. So how does the industry's most reliable asset become its most toxic liability in a single evening? How does a man reach the summit only to trigger an avalanche that buries his entire legacy path? The answer isn't in the anger of the slap, but in what the slap destroyed: the unshakable trust of a system that runs on controlled narratives. This is the story of the 3 seismic shifts that turned Will Smith from Hollywood's golden child into its most awkward, abandoned tenant. The death of the safe superstar model. To understand the collapse, you have to first understand the product that was destroyed. Will Smith's pre-2022 career was not an accident of talent. It was Hollywood's most meticulously built and commercially successful product. His persona was a strategic masterwork, the safe superstar. This was a deliberate, decades-long construction. As he has explained, his entire public being was engineered as a joyful persona, designed to disarm and attract. "I want to walk into a room and get as many friends as quickly as possible," he once said. This wasn't just personality. It was corporate strategy. In an industry historically wary of black leading men who couldn't cross over, Smith became the ultimate crossover artist. He was the non-threatening, charismatic avatar who could sell sci-fi to suburban families, inspire fathers in dramas, and anchor buddy cop comedies, all while maintaining an impeccable, almost sterile public image of control and likability. He wasn't just an actor. He was a 4-quadrant global risk mitigation tool. The business logic was flawless. For studio executives, greenlighting a Will Smith film was the closest thing to a sure bet. He anchored a record-setting 8 consecutive $100 million plus blockbusters. His films generated over $4.5 billion globally. The safe superstar model was a billion-dollar ecosystem, and he was its sole irreplaceable asset. This model demanded total consistency, the unwavering smile, the controlled narrative, the absence of scandal. It was a covenant with the audience and the industry. Buy a ticket to a Will Smith movie, and you will get thrilling, uplifting, comfortable entertainment, completely separate from any messy, real-world complexity. However, in the years leading up to the Oscars, Smith began a risky, calculated pivot. He entered an era of what he called radical honesty. He released a memoir, Will, exposing childhood trauma. He and his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, pulled back the curtain on the intimate, turbulent details of their marriage on her show Red Table Talk. This was a strategic bet, an attempt to trade the outdated, perfect brand for a more complex, authentic one, suited for a new, confessional media age. He was trying to retrofit the product. But this vulnerability introduced a critical instability into the once impervious brand. Then came the slap, and with it, the catastrophic public systems failure of the safe superstar model. The violence wasn't just shocking. It was the exact antithesis of the product he sold. The man built on joyful control became the avatar of uncontrollable rage. The star who made America feel safe became, for a moment, physically threatening. This single breach invalidated the entire decades-long contract. The slap proved the carefully engineered persona was a facade, and worse, a fragile one. Overnight, his primary commercial asset, his impeccable, bankable reliability, was incinerated. The immediate business consequences were severe and symbolic. He was banned from the Academy Awards for 10 years. Projects were shelved. His first post-slap film, the $35 million drama Emancipation, was strategically buried by Apple with a muted release and became a non-event, a stark contrast to the triumphant Oscar vehicle it was meant to be. The industry didn't just punish him, it signaled that the Will Smith product was now a liability. Reports suggest the total financial fallout, including lost endorsements and projects, reached a staggering $1 billion. This was the first fundamental power move that backfired. He spent a lifetime building a persona of infallible control, only to prove, on its grandest stage, that it could shatter. He didn't just lose his temper. He demonstrated that the core feature of his commercial product, its safety, was defective. For Hollywood, a system built on managing perception and mitigating financial risk, this made him obsolete in his original, most valuable form. The safe superstar was dead. The industry's abandonment, however, wasn't absolute. It became conditional and narrow. They would only engage with him on one familiar term, the franchise. Which leads us directly to Act 2, and the trap of the only safe harbor left. The Oscars slap as a brand systems failure. The slap was not an isolated incident of poor judgment. It was the catastrophic, real-time failure of a multi-billion-dollar brand's operating system. To analyze it as anything less, a mere scandal, a personal lapse, is to miss the profound business earthquake it triggered. This was a critical breach of Hollywood's core covenant. The industry operates on a fragile, unspoken contract of controlled narratives and managed risk. The Oscars stage is its most sacred temple, a globally broadcast ceremony designed to sell the myth of Hollywood's glamorous, civilized meritocracy. Will Smith, as the safe superstar, was not just a participant in this myth, he was one of its chief ambassadors. His role was to validate the system's fairness and decorum. When he stood up and crossed that stage, he didn't just hit Chris Rock, he violated the sanctity of the platform itself. He turned the industry's most carefully controlled narrative event into one of genuine, chaotic, and violent reality. The immediate, visceral horror in the room wasn't just about the assault. It was the shock of a fundamental breach of protocol. The star they had anointed as the night's ultimate winner, the embodiment of the comeback and perseverance narrative they were crafting for him in real time, had suddenly rebelled against the script. He became an unpredictable variable in a machine that exists to eliminate variables. For the executives and power brokers watching, this wasn't a personal tragedy. It was a reputational and financial crisis. The asset they had all invested in, the reliable, bankable, predictable Will Smith, had just demonstrated a critical, previously unknown flaw that made him a profound liability. The business response was swift, severe, and designed to send a systemic message. The 10-year ban from the Academy was not just a punishment, it was a symbolic quarantine. It communicated to every studio, financier, and brand partner that the industry's most prestigious institution had formally revoked its stamp of approval. Overnight, the Oscar winner Will Smith narrative was rendered toxic. Projects in active development, like the high-profile sequel Fast and Loose at Netflix, were immediately shelved. The highly anticipated drama Emancipation, already completed, became a poisoned chalice for Apple. Its release was strategically delayed and then dumped into the marketplace with minimal fanfare, its awards potential extinguished. Industry publications estimated the total financial cost in lost back-end deals, suspended projects, and vanished endorsements at a staggering $1 billion or more. This was the second irreversible power move. He didn't just damage his reputation, he destroyed his utility as a financial instrument. The slap proved that the safe superstar brand code could crash without warning. In an industry that runs on the perception of stability to secure hundreds of millions in financing and insurance, an unpredictable star is a worthless star. The trust, the absolute certainty that Will Smith meant a smooth, profitable, controversy-free operation was obliterated. This left him in a professional wilderness, stripped of his primary identity. His subsequent attempts to navigate this new reality reveal a star utterly disconnected from the new rules of the game, desperately trying to reboot a system that has already formatted his hard drive. Which brings us to the final and most telling act, the desperate comeback that proves there is no coming back. The Desperation Loop and Hollywood's Indifference. Following the slap and the collapse of his brand, Will Smith entered what can only be described as a desperation feedback loop. His attempts at a comeback have not been a strategic rebuild, but a series of revealing stumbles that prove he no longer understands the marketplace he once dominated. Every move has been a miscalculation, highlighting the very instability that made him a liability. His playbook has been a tragic parody of modern celebrity rehab. Instead of a period of quiet reflection or substantive work, he launched a campaign of awkward, overmanaged virality. He released a self-help-inspired R&B album, Where There's a Will, which was met with critical indifference and public bafflement. He participated in cringe-inducing, AI-doctored fan videos and gave interviews that oscillated between performative penitence and defiant justification. The most telling moment was a widely mocked viral stunt where he bungee jumped from a helicopter into the Grand Canyon, a literal and metaphorical leap into the void, screaming for attention but achieving only emptiness. These are not the actions of a confident star. They are the flailing gestures of a man trying to manually reboot a persona whose software is permanently corrupted. He is applying the old rules of blockbuster publicity: big gesture, big smile, big spectacle, to a problem that requires surgical nuance and genuine, time-earned contrition. This desperation stands in stark contrast to Hollywood's calculated indifference. The industry has not blackballed him. It has simply downgraded his valuation. His long-awaited comeback vehicle is not a bold new original drama or a franchise starter. It is Bad Boys Ride or Die, a legacy sequel safely nestled in the one IP cocoon where his persona still functions without risk, the buddy cop formula. The studio will profit from it, but its success will be credited to the franchise, not to Will Smith, the reclaimed star. It is a business transaction, not a reinvestment. Other planned projects with him as the central, singular draw have evaporated. The industry message is clear. We will monetize your past, but we will not bank on your future. This reveals the final, brutal shift. Will Smith has been transitioned from a blue-chip, foundational asset to a volatile, niche holding. Reports of financial pressure, including the sale of a 100-acre ranch in Calabasas, suggest the astronomical fixed cost of his superstar lifestyle is now colliding with a dramatically reduced earning power. The system is no longer interested in Will Smith as a contemporary cultural force. He is being managed, not championed. The unspoken truth is that Hollywood has quietly absorbed the shock, written down the asset on its books, and moved its investments elsewhere. The king has not been overthrown. He has been pensioned off, left to reign over a kingdom that no longer seeks his currency. This brings us to the conclusive diagnosis, the final lesson written in the ruins of a $4.5 billion brand. The diagnosis. Let's recap the three-part unraveling. First, the safe superstar model, a meticulously built $4.5 billion persona of controlled, joyful reliability, was his entire commercial foundation. Second, the Oscar slap was not a mistake, but a total systems failure of that brand, violently proving its core asset, safety, was a fiction in making him a toxic liability overnight. Third, his post-fall desperation loop and Hollywood's retreat to only funding his legacy franchises prove the industry has downgraded him from a blue-chip stock to a managed niche holding. Will Smith's story is the ultimate lesson in Hollywood's conditional love. His career wasn't ended by a moment of anger, but by revealing that the persona he sold, the product the industry spent 30 years buying, was breakable. He didn't just lose his temper, he broke the product. And in a system that cannot tolerate uncontrollable variables, a broken product is immediately shelved, no matter how much revenue it once generated. In Hollywood, your utility is a narrative of stability. The moment your narrative becomes unmanageable, the moment you become a story you cannot control, the system will quietly write you off. Will Smith didn't fall from grace. He exposed the fine print in his contract with fame, and Hollywood, as it always does, enforced the terms. This is the anatomy of a reputation collapse. Who's next on the operating table? Let me know in the comments. For more breakdowns of the business and power moves that derail Hollywood careers, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The real story is always behind the scenes.